They talk about me at Harlan's General Store. I know well, because Mrs. Pemberton can't whisper to save her life, and sound carries clean across a dirt road when the wind lies flat. That Greer woman, she said last Tuesday, leaning over the pickle barrel like she was sharing scripture. Walked in from Lord knows where, half dead, and just took up in that cowboy's shack like she owned the deed. I was standing right there, 10 feet away, counting out pennies for salt. She didn't even lower her voice. I didn't correct her. Correction requires caring. And I had spent every last drop of that somewhere between burying my husband and walking 50 miles through February snow. Let me tell you what actually happened, not the version they whisper, the real one. Thomas died on a Tuesday. Pneumonia. 3 days from the first cough to the last breath. And I boiled water, and I prayed, and I pressed cold rags to his forehead, and none of it, not one blessed thing, made any difference at all. The ground was frozen so hard, it took me 2 days to dig deep enough. I wrapped him in our good quilt, the one his mother had made, and I put him in that ground with my own hands. Then I started walking. I don't remember deciding to. My feet moved, and I let them. 50 miles through February, and the cold didn't just touch my skin. It settled in my bones like a tenant that ain't leaving. I stopped feeling my fingers somewhere around mile 30. Stopped feeling much of anything around mile 40. That's when I found the shack. And the man in the snow. He was face down in a drift, maybe 20 yards from the door. Cowboy, by the look of him. Horse gone thrown. I figured he was breathing, but barely. Just these thin little wisps of air that the wind kept stealing. I dragged him inside. Lord, he was heavy. Dead weight of a grown man across frozen ground, and my hands so numb I couldn't feel the latch. I remember that fumbling at that door with fingers like wood, thinking how stupid it'd be to die right here on the threshold of shelter because I couldn't work a simple lock. But I got it open, got him inside, lit a fire with hands that shook so bad the first 3 matches just snapped. Fourth one caught. I wrapped him in his only blanket, boiled water from snow, fed him broth from the last of my provisions. I locked that door against the blizzard, and I suppose I never really unlocked it. Not the one that matters. That was February. This is July. 5 months, and I'm still here, in Sam Briggs's one-room line shack on the edge of nowhere. Wyoming territory. The town 4 miles east, place called Jasper Flats, has decided what to make of me. Widow squatter, charity case. Or worse, I don't care what they call me. I wake before dawn, same as always. I mend what's torn, sweep what's dusty, haul water from the well that's been given less and less each week. This morning, the bucket came up half full, and I stood there staring at it like a prophecy written in rust-colored water. The land is drying. I can feel it in the cracked earth under my boots, in the way the grass has gone from gold to white, in the heat that presses down by 7 in the morning like a hand on your chest. Every night, I latch the door, not from fear, from habit, the habit of a woman who keeps everything sealed grief, hope, the hollow space where feeling used to live. The well is going quiet. And, um, honestly, so am I. Sam Briggs is a man who carries a debt he can't name. I see it in the way he watches me work, not lazily, not with that appraising look some men give a woman when she's bending over a wash tub. No, he watches like he's counting something, trying to figure the sum of what I did and whether there's any currency in the world that could repay it. He'd been recovered about 3 weeks when he asked me the first time, "Why'd you do it, Nettie?" Just like that, sitting at the table, turning a coffee cup in his rough hands, I gave him the answer I'd given myself. Because my mama raised me right. Said a person who won't help another person ain't worth the air they breathe. He nodded, didn't push. But last week, he asked again. Same question, same quiet voice. And this time I heard how my answer sounded. Not wrong, exactly, just hollow, like a bucket coming up light from a deep well. The words were true, but they weren't the whole truth, and I wasn't ready to dig for the rest. Same reason as before, I said, and turned back to the stove. He let it lie. Sam's good at that letting things lie, but he's not good at sitting still. He started doing things, not grand things, not the kind of gestures that announce themselves, just quiet repairs. I came back from the well one morning, and the fence rail I'd been meaning to fix was mended. New rawhide binding, tight and clean. He didn't mention it. I didn't mention it. Then the hinge, that damned hinge on the front door, had been squeaking since March-a-high. Thin sound like a cat complaining. I'd gotten used to it. It was part of the shack's voice. You know, part of the rhythm of this place. One afternoon, I pushed the door open and silence. He'd oiled it. The door swung smooth and quiet as a sigh. I stood there a moment longer than I should have, my hand flat against the frame. Such a small thing, an oiled hinge, but it said something. It said, I see what needs fixin', and I'll fix it without asking permission or expecting thanks. I catalogued these intrusions the way I catalog weather, objectively, without permission to feel grateful, because gratitude is, well, it's a door, isn't it? And I've had enough of doors. That evening, he poured water into my cup before filling his own, just reached across the table, lifted the pitcher, filled my cup first, like it was the most natural thing, like it was just the order of things. I noticed. I pretended I didn't. Later, I latched the door for the night. The hinge didn't squeak anymore. I almost missed the sound, almost, because the squeak had been a kind of announcement. Here is a door closing. Here is a woman shutting the world out. Without it, the lock-in was just silent, private, like a secret I was keeping from myself. A man who pours your water first is either kind or dangerous. I haven't decided which is worse. The well gave up on a Wednesday. I lowered that bucket 3 times into the dark, and 3 times it came back scraping stone. Just the hollow knock of wood on dry rock and a sound like the earth clearing its throat with nothing left to say. I stood there in the white morning heat, one hand on the well rope, the other pressed against my hip where it ached from hauling. And I understood. This wasn't a slow die in the well, was done. Whatever water had been down there had seeped away into the cracks like a conversation that just stops. Jessup Creek, 2 miles south, through scrub brush and heat shimmer. It was the only water left that I knew of. And if the stories were right, it was running thin. Sam came out when he heard me pull the bucket up dry the third time. He didn't say I told you so or what. Now, he just looked at the empty bucket and then looked south, toward the creek, calculating. I figure we set up a system, he said, calm as morning. I'll haul at first light. You haul at dusk when the heat breaks. We ration what's between. I've managed alone before. You have. He paused, looked at me steady. But you don't have to. 8 words, simple ones. And I felt every one of them land like stones dropped into that dry well, no splash. Just the sound of something hitting bottom. I agreed. Not because I trusted him, because the arithmetic didn't leave room for pride. One person can't haul enough water 2 miles each way to keep 2 people. A mule, a dog, and a few scraggly chickens alive in July. It's just numbers. Nothing personal about numbers. We walked to the creek that first evening together. I carried 2 pails, he carried 2. The walk was long and silent. Our boots raising little clouds of dust that hung in the still air like ghosts that couldn't decide where to settle. He shortened his stride to match mine. Didn't say anything about it. Didn't make a show of slowing down, just adjusted, like a man who understood that walking together means moving at the same pace, not proving who's faster. The creek was still running, thin, but running. Water over brown stones, barely deep enough to fill a pail without scooping mud. We knelt on the bank and worked in silence. Dip, wait, dip, wait. And the sound of water filling tin was, I swear, the sweetest music I'd heard in months. The walk back was harder, pails full, shoulders burning, the shack a dark shape against the red sky. I stumbled once on a root and water slopped over the rim. Precious water, wasted on dirt, and I made a sound. Not a word, just a sound, like something caught in my throat. Sam didn't reach for my pail, didn't offer to carry it. He just stopped walking until I steadied, and then we went on. That mattered. I can't tell you exactly why, but it mattered. We poured the water into the trough together. The mule pushed her nose in and drank long, deep pulls, her whole neck working. And something about watching an animal drink water you carried 2 miles on your own aching shoulders. It felt like the most honest prayer I'd said in a long, long time. Needing help isn't the same as wanting it. I can survive the first. The second would undo me. Days took on a shape, a rhythm, like a song you don't realize you're learning until you catch yourself humming it. First light. Sam goes for water. I feed the chickens what little scratch we have left. Check the mule's hooves. Sweep the dust that settles overnight like the earth is trying to reclaim the shack 1 grain at a time. Midday, we rest because the heat won't allow otherwise. Afternoon. I haul water while the sun drops low enough to stop trying to kill us. Evening. We sit on the porch and don't talk. Or we talk, and somehow both feel the same. I started noticing things about Sam. Not like that. Just details. The way his hands went gentle when he touched the mule's muzzle, like he was handling something made of paper. The way he talked to that old yellow dog Biscuit. He called him like the animal was a person with opinions worth hearing. "Well, Biscuit, you reckon the creek'll hold another week?" And that dog would tilt his head and thump his tail, and Sam would nod like he'd gotten a real answer. I almost laughed one afternoon. He was arguing with Biscuit about whether the clouds to the west meant rain or just more heat, and the dog sneezed right in the middle of his sentence. And Sam said, "Well, I'll allow that's a fair point." I almost laughed, but I caught it. Caught it like you catch a glass at the edge of a table quick, before it falls and shatters. My hand went to my throat, where Thomas's ring hung on a cord against my collarbone. I pressed it there, hard, feeling the metal dig into my skin. The laughter died. Thomas used to whistle while he worked. This tuneless, wandering thing that drove me half crazy, and that I'd give anything to hear again. Sam doesn't whistle. Sam hums, low, barely there, like a vibration in the air you feel more than hear. Different man, different sound, and the difference had started feeling warm. That's the part I couldn't look at straight, that evening, without thinking. I picked up the water pitcher and filled Sam's cup before my own. My hand stopped mid-pour. I stared at that cup. His cup, full, set in front of his place at the table, and I realized what I'd done, what it meant. That somewhere in the rhythm of these shared days, his thirst had become as natural to tend as my own. I said nothing. He said nothing. We drank our water, and the silence between us was the comfortable kind. The kind that doesn't demand filling. And that scared me more than the drought. After supper, I sat on the porch, watching the sky for clouds that weren't there. Sam sat 3 feet away. Biscuit lay between us, snoring soft. 3 feet. The distance felt both enormous and not nearly enough. Some nights, the heat won't let you sleep. It just sits on your chest and dares you to breathe. This was one of those nights, the kind where the walls of a one-room shack shrink and the air turns to something you chew rather than breathe. I was on the porch. Sam was already there, chair tilted back, boots off, the moonlight making everything silver and strange, crickets screaming in the grass like they had something urgent to say, and all night to say it. We sat quiet for a long time. Then Sam said, not asking, exactly, just laying it down like a card on the table you don't talk about before. I could have closed that door. I felt the latch right there under my fingers, familiar and easy. Just say nothing to talk about and let the silence swallow it. But the night was so warm, and the silence had been holding me for so long that I think I was tired of being held by it, tired of the weight of all those unspoken things pressing down harder than the heat. I opened my mouth, closed it. My fingers found the edge of the porch rail and gripped it, thumbnail pressing hard into the grain of the wood. I could feel a splinter threatening, but I didn't let go. His name, I stopped, swallowed, started again. His name was Thomas. The air didn't crack, the sky didn't fall, just his name, spoken into warm darkness, hanging there between us like smoke from a candle that's already gone out. Thomas Greer. He was, He was the kind of man who laughed with his whole body. You know, not just his mouth, his shoulders, his chest, his hands. When Thomas laughed, you felt it in the floor. Sam didn't move, didn't say a word. Pneumonia took him in 3 days. 3 days, I mean. How is that enough? How does a man who laughed like that just stop? I boiled water. I prayed. I pressed rags to his forehead and begged God to let the fever break. And God just... I stopped, breathed. The Lord was busy elsewhere, I reckon. Nettie, don't. My voice came out rougher than I meant. Don't say you're sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry. Don't fill a grave. He went quiet again. And Lord, this is the part I keep coming back to. He didn't try to fix it. Didn't offer some bit of cowboy philosophy about how time heals or the Lord works in mysterious ways. He just stayed. Sat there in his chair 3 feet away and let my grief take up space in the night air without trying to sweep it away. I cried. Not the dramatic kind, not sobbing or wailing, just tears tracking through the dust on my face, slow and steady like that creek we'd been hauling from. I didn't wipe them, didn't hide them, and somewhere in there, in that hot, raw, honest, dark, I realized the door behind us, the actual, physical door to the shack was standing open. I'd forgotten to latch it when I came out. The locked door, open. I looked at it, looked at the dark interior of the shack beyond, and the moonlight falling across the threshold like an invitation, and I thought. I said his name, and the sky didn't fall. Maybe that's what healing sounds like. Not thunder. Just a name spoken into warm air, and a door you forgot to close. I didn't get up to latch it. Sam didn't mention it either. Just reached down and scratched Biscuit's ears, and the dog sighed the way dogs do completely. Without reservation, and the night went on being warm and wide and full of things we'd said and things we hadn't. I left the door open. Tom Archer rode up on a Thursday, horse lathered, hat pushed back, looking like a man who'd rather be anywhere else delivering whatever news he was carrying. "Creek's going," he said, not bothering to dismount. "Henderson and the Coulter boys been damming upstream, diverting for their cattle." He looked at me, then at Sam, then at the shack, and I could see him calculating the same calculation the whole town had already made. "If rain don't come in 2 weeks, you all are going to be in a hard way." "The town," Sam started. "Town's got its own worries." Archer shifted in his saddle. "I'm just being neighborly, is all. Thought you should know." Neighborly. Right. He rode off without offering water, without asking if we needed anything, without even tipping his hat. I watched him go and tasted dust and the particular bitterness of charity that ain't charity at all, just a man easing his conscience on his way to somewhere better. "I'll ride upstream," Sam said that evening. "Talk to Henderson, man to man. We can work something." "I'll go." He looked at me. "Nettie, it's my fight too. I drink that water. I haul that water. I got a right to speak for it." We argued. Not angry. Not the kind of arguing that breaks things. The kind that happens when 2 people have learned to care about each other and don't know yet how to let the other person take the risk. He wanted to protect me. I wanted to stand for myself. Both things true. Both things tangled up together like rope that won't unknot. I'm going. Sam. He went quiet, looked at me for a long moment, and I could see it happen. The shift. He didn't relent because I was stubborn. He relented because he respected my right to fight my own fight. And, honestly, that respect quiet, offered without conditions, it terrified me more than the drought. Come dawn, I saddled the mule. Sam came out with a canteen full, heavy, his share of water. He held it out without a word. I took it, without argument, without protest, without my usual, I don't need your help. Just took it and slung it over my shoulder. You be careful, he said. I'll be what I need to be. He almost smiled. I reckon that's what scares me. I rode south in white morning light, the canteen bumping against my hip, the mule's hooves raising dust that hung in the air behind me like a trail of everything I was leaving temporarily behind, the shack, the mended fence, the man standing on the porch watching me go, the man I was already afraid of losing. Henderson's ranch was big, and his opinion of me was small. There were 3 of them on the porch when I rode up Henderson. Carl Coulter, a younger one I didn't know. They watched me dismount the way men watch something they've already decided isn't worth their time. I've come about the creek, I said, tried to keep my voice level. You've been damming upstream. That water feeds the whole valley. And this ain't your land, ma'am. Henderson didn't even stand up. Ain't your water. You got no deed, no claim, and from what I hear, no husband. So I ain't sure what business you reckon you got riding up here. The younger one snickered. I stood there in the dust with the sun burning the back of my neck, and I felt it. That old, familiar shrinking. The way the world tells a woman she's nothing if she don't have a man's name on a piece of paper. I'd felt it at Thomas's funeral when the banker came to collect before the dirt was even settled. I'd felt it at Harlan's store when Mrs. Pemberton whispered. I'd felt it every day of my life in one form or another. And I was so tired, so bone deep, marrow deep tired of feeling small in front of men who'd never walked 50 miles through snow for anyone. I reckon I've said my piece, I managed. Water belongs to the land, not the man who dams it. And you don't belong to this land. Henderson turned back to his coffee. Mosey on home, ma'am, if you got one. The ride back was the longest 2 miles of my life, longer than the 50 through February, because at least in the snow, I'd been numb. Now I felt everything, the heat, the humiliation, the dust in my throat, the way my hands shook on the reins from anger and shame, knotted together so tight I couldn't tell which was which. That night, I sat in the dark shack. Sam was asleep by the cold stove, no fire in July. Just the stove sitting there like a memory of winter. One arm hung off the edge of his cot, his fingers resting loose against Biscuit's back, rising and falling with the dog's breathing. His face in the moonlight looked unguarded, the way people look when they trust the room they're sleeping in, the way I hadn't looked in months. And the old voice came, the one I thought I'd buried with Thomas, the one that whispers when you're lowest. Keep moving, Nettie. Don't stop. You've walked away before, and you can walk away again. 50 miles to somewhere else, somewhere that don't require hope in, because hope is what gets you, isn't it? Not the drought, not the cold, not the men who look through you like you're made of glass. It's the hope that kills you. Because hope means you've got something to lose. I looked at Sam's sleeping face, at the mended fence visible through the window in the moonlight, at the door, the locked door that I hadn't latched in days. My hand reached toward the latch, hovered there, fingers curling and uncurling, testing the old motion, the familiar seal. I pulled my hand back because what I felt standing there in the dark, looking at everything I'd stumbled into, wasn't grief anymore. It was want. I wanted this shack, this man, this cracked and stubborn piece of earth. I wanted it so fierce, my chest ached with the holding. I didn't sleep, but I didn't pack either. Morning came the way it does after a sleepless night, not gently, not with any consideration for the war you've been fighting inside your own chest. Just light, hard, and white, pushing through the window like it had every right. I was sitting at the table when Sam woke. He looked at me, looked at my face, which I imagined told the whole story of the night I'd had, and he started to speak. "Nettie, if you wanna, I'm staying." He stopped. "I'm staying," I said again. "And not because I owe you or you owe me. Not because my mama raised me right or because I got nowhere else to go or because—" My voice cracked. I let it. "I'm staying because I want to be here. With you. On this dried up, stubborn, impossible piece of ground. I'm staying because I choose this." I stood up, walked to the door, that door, the one I'd locked every night since February, the one with the hinge he'd oiled so it swung silent, the one I'd forgotten open the night I said Thomas's name. I unlatched it, pushed it wide, and this time it wasn't forgetting. It was deciding. "I'm done being locked," I said, quieter now. "I'm done being a woman who walks and never stays long enough to—" I pressed my hand against the doorframe, felt the rough wood under my palm, real, solid. "I choose this. Sam." He stood up slow, came toward me and stopped 2 feet away, close enough to touch, far enough to give me room. "You sure? Because I won't hold you to nothing you don't want. Nettie, not ever." "I'm sure." And that was it. No grand speech, no falling into each other's arms like some dime novel. Just 2 people standing in a doorway with the morning light coming in, agreeing to stop being alone. We worked all day, harder than we'd ever worked, digging a channel from the creek bed, deeper than the trickle, angled to catch whatever the sky might offer, lining it with flat stones from the ridge, setting them tight so the water would hold instead of seep. My back screamed. My hands bled. I didn't care. Every stone I set said, "I'm here." Every shovelful of dirt said, "I'm not running." Sam worked beside me, not ahead of me, not behind me, beside. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. The sound of shovels and stone and breathing was its own language, and we were both fluent. Mid-afternoon, I straightened up and looked west. The sky was white, flat, empty as a promise nobody made. I stared at it and felt the doubt crawl in that maybe I was laying stones for a channel that would never fill, that maybe choosing to stay didn't mean the land would choose me back. Sam saw me looking. "Might not come today," he said. "Might not come at all. Then we'll have a real fine ditch." He drove his shovel in. "And we'll have built it together. That's worth something either way." I picked up the next stone. Late afternoon. I looked up again and the sky had changed. Not dramatically, not some biblical partin of clouds with light pouring through, just a darkening. Gray-purple moving in from the west, slow and honest, like the sky had been holding its breath all summer and was finally ready to let go. Sam, I see it. First drops hit the dust, little dark circles, like coins tossed from heaven. One on my arm, one on the stone I was laying, one on Sam's hat brim, then more, then steady, then rain, real rain, the kind that means it. I stood up, turned my face to the sky, and let it hit me. Warm rain, summer rain, the kind that smells like the earth sighing with relief. It ran down my face, and I didn't wipe it, and I didn't cry, and I didn't pray. I breathed deep, full, the kind of breath you take when you've been holding on so tight for so long that your ribs ache from the clenching. The channel filled, slow at first, then steady water finding the path we'd made for it, following the stones, moving toward the shack like it knew where it was needed. We built that before the rain came. We didn't wait for rescue. We didn't pray for miracles. We dug and we hauled and we laid stone, and when the sky finally opened, there was something ready to receive it. Sam's hand found mine. Rough, wet, warm. I held it. First time I'd reached for anything since February. Mama said help others. She forgot to say, let them help you back. That's the harder lesson. That's the one that saves you. The rain came and stayed 3 days. Not a flood, just steady, patient. The kind of rain that soaks deep instead of running off. The creek rose, the channel held, and the well. The well took its time, but by the end of August, when I lowered that bucket, it came up full, heavy and dripping and cold and full. I stood there holding it, water running over my hands, and I thought about the woman who'd stared at a half-empty bucket in July like it was a prophecy. She wasn't wrong. It was a prophecy, just not the kind she'd feared. Things grew back. Grass came in green where it had been white. The chickens got fat. Biscuit found a patch of mud behind the shack and rolled in it daily with a joy that was, I'll admit, disgusting and beautiful in equal measure. Sam and we didn't have a moment. I mean, not the kind the dime novels describe, no declaration under a harvest moon, no drop-to-one-knee proposal. We had something better. We had Tuesday mornings and Thursday suppers and the quiet negotiation of two people learning how to share a one-room shack without losing themselves. He still pours my water first. I still set his cup out before mine. We never discussed it. Some things don't need discussing. Last week, a woman from town, Ellen Marsh, the postmaster's wife, rode out with a jar of blackberry preserves and a look on her face like she was visiting foreign territory. She stood on the porch, turning the jar in her hands, and said, "Mrs. Greer, I just thought, well, I had extra, and the berries were so good this year." She didn't stay long, but she called me Mrs. Greer, and she came in daylight, and she looked me in the eye when she spoke. It ain't much, but it's a door hers, not mine cracking open. I'll take it. I think about Mama sometimes, what she taught me, what she didn't. She was right about helping. A person who won't help another person ain't worth the air they breathe. I still believe that. Believed it standing over a dying stranger in the snow. Believe it now. But Mama only told half the story. A person who won't let herself be helped is just as lost. Maybe more so, because she looks like she's surviving, when really, she's just moving, walking and never arriving. I was that woman, 50 miles through snow, and every mile after just motion, not living, giving without receiving, carrying without setting down. Sam didn't complete me. I want to be clear about that. I was already whole cracked and dusty and tired, but whole. What Sam did was, he reminded me I was still alive, still capable of warmth, still allowed to want something for myself. Thomas taught me how to love. Sam taught me I could choose it again. The difference matters. I got a letter from my sister in Missouri. She asked, was I happy? I sat with that word for a long time, turning it over like a stone in my hand. Happy. I reckon I'm something better than happy. I'm settled. Not the settled of giving up, but the settled of having chosen. Like a foundation stone that's found its place in the earth and knows it ain't moving. The door to the shack stands open, hasn't been latched in weeks. The hinge Sam oiled swings it gentle in the evening breeze. And sometimes I hear it move, and I think of that night in February, frozen fingers on the latch, a dying man on the floor, a woman who locked herself in and didn't know she was locking herself out of everything that makes life more than just breathing. Evening now. Sam sets 2 cups of coffee on the porch rail, his habit, not mine. But I've stopped pretending I don't like it. I take mine without thanking him, not from coldness, from the easy comfort of a life that don't need ceremony anymore. The mended fence catches the last light. The water pail by the step is full. Biscuit is asleep between our chairs, snoring like a man with no regrets. I walked 50 miles through snow to save a stranger's life, dragged him through a door I locked against the world. Turns out, the longest journey was the 3 feet between his porch chair and mine. The lamp flickers once, then steadies.